A new report from NBC News has shocking consequences on the monkeypox narrative. NBC News reports sex between men, not skin contact, is fueling monkeypox, new research suggests. The claim that skin-to-skin contact during sex, not the intercourse itself, drives most monkeypox transmission is likely backward, a growing group of experts say. Now, the reason this is consequential is that for the past several weeks, there have been some alarming stories about certain individuals and animals acquiring monkeypox. The narrative was monkeypox was spread by skin-to-skin contact. And because, of course, people who are engaging in adult activities are heavily contacting each other's skin, they're more likely to get monkeypox. It's the narrative that the news has run with. It's what we've been reporting as per these reports, but now something is different. In fact, what NBC News is reporting is that experts now say it is bodily fluids from intercourse itself, not the skin-to-skin contact. This will have shocking ramifications on several other stories, notably a dog that acquired monkeypox, as well as several children, NBC News reports. Since the outset of the global monkeypox outbreak in May, public health and infectious disease experts have told the public that the virus is largely transmitting through skin-to-skin contact, in particular during sex between men. Now, however, an expanding cadre of experts has come to believe that sex between men itself, both, let's just say, I don't know how to say it. I can't keep this one family friendly, but I'll try. In the front and in the back, is likely the main driver of the global monkeypox transmission. Now, I apologize for being crude or crass if it comes off this way. I'm really trying, and I want to make sure this is clear to everybody, to be as academic in the reporting of this information as possible, because this does pertain to a health emergency. I believe Biden declared an emergency. Several states have declared emergencies. We need to understand this if we are going to enact proper policies and procedures to deal with the outbreak. They say in recent weeks, a growing body of scientific evidence, including a trio of studies published in peer-reviewed journals, as well as reports from national, regional, and global health authorities, has suggested that experts may have framed monkeypox's typical transmission route precisely backward. Reconceiving the primary risk factors for transmission is crucial because of how it may affect guidance on reducing the risk of infection, including the question of whether demanding that people with the virus self-isolate has any substantial impact on transmission. A growing body of evidence supports that sexual transmission, particularly through, let's just say, male fluids, is occurring with the current monkeypox outbreak, said Dr. Aniruddha Hazra, medical doctor of the University of Chicago Sexual Wellness Clinic, referring to monkeypox and to recent studies that found the virus in male fluids. Consequently, scientists told NBC News that the CDC and other public health authorities should update their monkeypox communication strategies to more strongly emphasize the centrality of intercourse among gay and bi men, who comprise nearly all U.S. cases to the virus's spread. On August 14th, Dr. Jeffrey Klausner, an infectious disease physician at the University of Southern California, and Dr. Lao Tzu, Alan Blitz, a resident physician in global health at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, published an essay on Medium in which they reviewed the science supporting the argument that during the current outbreak, monkeypox is largely transmitting through front and back intercourse between men. It looks very clear to us that this is an infection that is transmitting sexually the vast majority of the time. This is important. There have been several stories where on Twitter you'll see people saying, oh, you're incorrectly assessing that this is an STD. Now, a lot of people were telling me I was wrong by reporting the news when they said it was skin-to-skin contact. I got to be honest, that seems to make sense. Now we're getting information to the contrary, and I go where the reporting goes. Maybe a lot of people, they want me to report things that they see or they believe, and often they are correct. My friends, I only go where the reporting evidence and our independent review and investigation from timcast.com brings us. That is to say, although many people may have believed this from the outright, that's what it was, I can't say things not as an expert. Okay, so the information now is changing, and this is what we have. This is very important. I hope everybody understands this and shares this information, because this will have a profound impact on how we deal with a very serious emergency. This debate, however, is far from settled. Dr. Rosamund Lewis, technical lead for monkeypox at the World Health Organization, told NBC News it was unfortunate but true that we don't know yet whether the virus is predominantly transmitted through intercourse. Completely reading the situation as uniquely due to front or back intercourse is highly likely to be overreach, she said. The correlation may appear to be strong, but that does not explain the whole picture of disease caused by this virus, so we need to keep an open mind. Fair point. The reason why I was saying it makes sense is that if you've got a pustule, okay, a bursting pustule on your skin, I'd imagine the virus is very readily there. And if you come into contact with it, it makes sense. That's probably why that's what they assumed. People are engaging in intercourse. They're rubbing on each other's bodies, spreading the virus. Now they're saying that may not be the case. I have to say, I think it makes sense when you look at many of the cases where the pustules are forming. Mucous membranes in the mouth and the behind. They say completely reading the situation as uniquely due. I read that. Some experts in infectious disease see evidence supporting the argument that monkeypox at least transmits more readily through intercourse. At this point, said Dr. Paul Adamson, an infectious disease specialist at the UCLA School of Medicine, I'm not sure we can say it is primarily the adult activity transmission and not the skin-to-skin contact that also occurs during sex that is contributing to most transmission during the outbreak. However, emerging data seems to suggest that monkeypox might be more efficiently transmitted sexually. In an interview, Klausner, who had submitted a version of his and Alan Blitz's essay to a scientific journal for publication, distilled the evidence that he said supports the hypothesis that sex itself fuels the global outbreak into 4 major points. First, he noted that according to the World Health Organization, more than 3/4 of global monkeypox cases are among men 18 to 44 years old. This is a typical age breakdown for diagnosis of sexually transmitted infections among gay and bisexual men. What's more, in recent studies of pooled monkeypox cases, among this demographic, 17 to 32% of those diagnosed with the virus received a sexually transmitted infection at the same time. Second, during the global outbreak, atypical to what has historically been seen in the 11 African nations where the virus has become endemic since first being identified in humans in 1970, monkeypox lesions have, in the majority of cases, occurred in men's genital and anorectal areas. This, experts told NBC News, suggests that these were sites where the virus first passed into the body. In a study of 197 monkeypox cases in London men, published July 28, the BMG, British Medical Association's journal, researchers found that 56% had lesions in the genital area and 42% had them in their anorectal regions. And in a study published July 21st in the New England Journal of Medicine, a global team of researchers pooled 538 monkeypoxes, also in men from around the world, and found that 73% had lesions in the genital or anorectal areas. This is exactly the point I was making. Based on the location of the pustules, it does not suggest simply that someone's arm was touching someone else's arm. Third, researchers have found monkeypox in male fluids have been able to culture that virus, which suggests it could transmit through male ejaculation. I'm trying to keep it family friendly. I just don't think it's as possible as I'd like it to be. Also, the authors of 2 recent studies have detected the virus after taking anal swabs among men who had monkeypox but were asymptomatic, which indicates the virus might transmit from the anorectal area during rear intercourse before people develop symptoms. Experts say more research is needed on both of these fronts. Referring to bodily fluids, such as semen, vaginal, and blood, the World Health Organization's Lewis said research is underway to find out more about whether people can spread monkeypox through the exchange of these fluids during and after symptomatic infection. Finally, Klausner noted that scientists have identified an association between specific sex acts and the location of monkeypox lesions. The authors of the paper, published on August 8th in The Lancet, documenting 181 cases of the virus in Spain, found that 38% of the men who reported having receptive rear intercourse, called bottoming, developed proctitis, or inflammation of the rectum. Just 7% of the men who reported sex with men developed this potentially excruciating symptom. Additionally, 95% of the men with tonsillitis reported performing oral on a man. Dr. Oriol Mitja, an associate professor in infectious disease at the University Hospital's German Trias y Pujol in Spain, and the joint senior co-author of the study in The Lancet, said monkeypox transmits most efficiently when lesions come into contact with the mucous membranes in the anorectal area, genitals, mouth, and throat. Monkeypox is more likely to transmit in this way as opposed to with external skin, which would need some sort of defect, such as a wound, to allow entry of the virus. Dr. Dimi Agonya, a professor of medicine and infectious diseases at Niger Delta University in Nigeria, acknowledged Mitya's research supporting the connection between sex between men and monkeypox outcomes. This is not to say that females or heterosexuals are not at risk of monkeypox, or that the female area is not prone to abrasions during activity, Agonya said. So, very much so, this could end up making its way to the main population if you end up with a bi man who's engaging in activities with women. So the conclusion, they say, is Harvard's Lao Tzu Alan Blitz acknowledged the pervasive concern that telling the public that monkeypox transmits sexually among gay men will fuel homophobia. He said there is, however, also a cost to keeping quiet about how the virus apparently transmits. This keeps people at risk from best understanding how to protect themselves. In our silence, we can also do harm. I agree. I think we need to make sure it's known if that's what the science is saying. NBC News doing the report. I think it's important information. We should take this into consideration with all of our policies, with the World Health Organization and the CDC moving forward, to stress that maybe people need to use more protection, things like that. And, maybe we need 15 days to slow the spread. I don't know what the period of illness is, but I think within 15 days, you'll start seeing visible symptoms. 15 days, just chill out. Don't engage in, let's call it, close adult contact in these circumstances, and maybe we can put a dent in the monkeypox outbreak. Now, this study is actually bringing up some dark questions. ABC News reports 9th child in U.S. tests positive for monkeypox. Okay, well, if the reporting from NBC News is true, we can draw two potential conclusions. One, they do entertain. It very, very much is possible to get monkeypox if you have an abrasion and you come into contact with the virus. It does not have to be through, let's just call it, adult activities. However, if the majority of these circumstances are sexual activities, then I think we need to investigate what's happening with these children. I do, because, keeping these kids safe is going to be very important. ABC News says a child in Oregon has tested positive for monkeypox, state health officials announced Wednesday, making the 9th reported pediatric case in the U.S. Quote, "We have a known connection to a previously diagnosed case," Dr. Dean Seidlinger, health officer and state epidemiologist at the Oregon Health Authority, said in a press release. This child did not get the virus at school, childcare, or another community setting. The case has been linked to an adult monkeypox infection that was confirmed last month. Okay, I think we got to send in investigators. I just simply put. Health officials have initiated a case investigation and are conducting contact tracing to determine potential exposures. No additional information of the case will be disclosed at this time due to patient privacy. A total of 116 presumptive cases of monkeypox have been reported in Oregon, including 112 in men and 4 women. So I want to stress that too. The stories from last night, and so this is within 12 hours or so. We're getting this report, 15 or so hours, less than a day. Women do get this. It is just that NBC News is saying it's primarily among men who engage in intercourse with other men. They say in total, at least 7 U.S. states and jurisdictions have reported pediatric monkeypox cases. Earlier this week, health officials in Harris County, Texas, confirmed to ABC News that a presumptive case had been identified in a child under the age of 2. Yikes, man. Officials reported the child has been completely asymptomatic, according to the child's parents, with no other symptoms other than a residual rash. The child is expected to make a full recovery and is doing very, very well. Quote, "I understand that it's a very scary thing, and parents have concerns, and what we need to do is make sure to be vigilant and understand the risks, not assume the worst. But this reminds us that this is very real. The family has also been fully cooperative and is assisting with contact tracing that the child has not been in any daycare or school settings. Thus far, no one else in the child circle has been identified as positive for monkeypox." Now that's interesting. Look, I know a lot of people might want to immediately assume abuse, but in the first instance, the child who was diagnosed with monkeypox, there was an adult. Now, there should be questions asked about how this happens. But in the case where no one else in the close circle has monkeypox, there's questions about how that happened, and that's very serious. How this child contracted monkeypox is still unknown. The news of positive pediatric case in Texas comes after a child in Martin County, Florida, tested positive as well. The child was between the ages of 0 and 4 years old. Officials in Maine also announced Friday that they too had confirmed a positive monkeypox case in a child. No further information about the case has been released due to concerns over patient privacy. Maine's CDC is working to identify any others who may have been exposed and make vaccination available to close contacts. In addition to cases in children reported in Maine and Florida, 2 cases have been confirmed in California, as well as 2 in Indiana, and a case in a non-U.S. resident reported in D.C. The majority of cases in the current monkeypox outbreak have been detected in gay, bisexual, or other men who have sex with men. However, health officials have repeatedly stressed that anyone can contract the virus. I don't think this contradicts the first story. I think that's a very, very important point. You have an abrasion, maybe you got a scrape, maybe you don't realize it. You can come in contact with this, you can get it. So take it seriously, but I don't think we need any kind of panic. I don't think that this is going to become anything near like COVID, although it is much scarier. They say across the globe, nearly 32,000 cases of monkeypox have now been reported, including nearly 12,000 cases in the U.S., the most of any country, according to the CDC. All but one U.S. state, Wyoming, have now confirmed at least one positive monkeypox case. That's interesting. They say monkeypox primarily spreads through prolonged skin-to-skin contact with infected people's lesions or bodily fluids, according to the CDC. Well, this is what NBC News is now saying. Research is showing that may not be the case. I think it is fair to say the reality is it is not definitive. At least that's what the experts are saying, the World Health Organization, that we don't know exactly. But new studies suggest it is more likely. Well, that just makes sense. I mean, if we're talking about this spreading through bodily fluids, it makes substantially more sense that sexual contact is going to exacerbate the spread. Which brings me to another very disturbing story. Dog infected with monkeypox prompts isolation warning. This is the story. That there were 2 men who had monkeypox. They shared a bed. And their dog contracted monkeypox with a lesion on its anus. That's the story. A BBC News says, in the first case of its kind, and health leaders say isolating from pets when infected, is important. They say there is no evidence the dog can transmit the disease to other dogs or humans. They go on to say that monkeypox spreads through close skin-to-skin contact and also when someone touches fabrics, such as clothing, bedding, or towels, which have been used by someone with the virus. All true. If there are bodily fluids on these things, my understanding, according to the reporting, is that if you get that on you, you can contract the virus. So in the case of the dog, the most charitable circumstance, we'll put it that way. The most charitable circumstance is that simply by sharing the bed, that the dog may have accidentally touched some part of the individual, which had virus, and the dog contracted the virus. Now, the dog apparently did have on the mouth and the anus lesions, and so it's quite possible the dog was licking himself, and that's how it spread. We don't know for sure. We don't know. These 2 individuals said that they were sharing a bed with the dog, so we don't know. I don't believe the BBC gets into the detail of where the lesions appeared on the dog, but I believe it was on its stomach, mouth, and anus. And that's it. I mean, the dog was likely licking itself, so you're not going to see it on its head or anything like that. They say Dr. Mike Ryan, Director of Health Emergencies Program, said it was not unexpected. What we don't want to see happen is disease moving from one species to the next and then remaining in that species and moving around within a new species, because that's when the virus can adapt. And then adapting to that new species is incentivized to evolve as such. They're going to mention vaccine supplies, etc. They say it's undoubtedly attention grabbing, but how much of a risk does it pose? I don't think this dog is going to be going out and doing anything. They say monkeypox has shown a knack for infecting a wide range of mammals, including squirrels, rats, dormice, monkeys, and of course, us. And this is what I want to stress. Ain't nobody having intercourse with a squirrel. Okay, like this can transmit in other ways. And I think it's very important that people don't assume all of the spread just due to this one story is the result of adult activities. What the NBC News story is saying is that it's more likely, it's a more efficient transmission vector, and that makes a lot of sense. But still, pay attention. Prairie dogs can get this, dormice, rats, and squirrels. I really don't think they're getting it from a person. Or I should say, from adult activities, although yikes, to say the least, if that's the case. Now, it's possible the dog, like these 2 guys were in bed. Maybe these 2 guys were engaging in activities, and then the dog lays in the bed, and it's, all over the bed. You get the point. I'm not saying there's anything untoward happening to this dog, but with the children, questions need to be asked about the close contact with children. It's one thing to share a bed with your dog. It's another thing when kids are sharing a bed and, these things are spreading. These are questions that need to be asked. There's obviously questions that need to be asked about potential animal abuse and sharing a bed with your dog. But look, like it's relatively common for like the dog to jump up on the bed and, sleep at the foot of the bed or whatever, something like that. And if the bed is dirty, I get it. And it is true that children often sleep with their parents and adults in completely normal parental ways. Kid gets scared and says, I want to lay in bed with you. I still think, considering the data that's coming out from these studies and the suggestions that it is substantially more likely to be from sexual activities, we should definitely be looking into. We should be investigating these cases with these kids, because if these kids are being abused, and I'm not saying that they are, we should be checking on it. My whole point with a lot of my perspective on speculation is that we may form a hypothesis, but we don't need to come out and screaming the hypothesis is true. We simply need to say, okay, we're going to test. So if you say, these kids got monkeypox, and the assumption is it came through abuse, we don't need to come out and start screaming they're abusing kids. What we need to say is, hey, we want to ask the kids some questions and figure out how they got this disease. It's that simple. And if the kid tells us something is happening, we want to go where the evidence leads us, not lead the evidence or bring the evidence, use evidence to find the direction we want to go. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of people that will determine something is true and then try and find things to back up their claim. What you want to do is form a hypothesis and then test the hypothesis, which means talk to the kids, see what they're saying, and then we'll see if there's something potentially bad going on. But I warn everybody, this is not exclusively an STD, although it is reported that it may be substantially more likely to transmit that way. We use that evidence in our investigations. But let me just stress, man, there could come a time where you somehow come into contact with somebody or an animal that's got it and you get it, and then everyone's going to assume you were engaging in adult activities, and you're going to be like, I wasn't, but no one's going to believe you. Just take that into consideration. At the same time, we should be investigating this. And this needs to be reported. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.